Welcome back, everybody. Here's the main man, yellow jersey, Tadej Pogačar. First yellow jersey to win on the French national day for 9 years. That had been Chris Froome the last time in 2015. 14 stage wins now. He's not even 26 yet. The Giro, 3 here so far at the Tour de France. The last being Mark Cavendish in 2009. 54 days now leading a Grand Tour this year.
Just a question, Rob, but how do you find all these stats? Because every day, you know, you see Pogačar, he does something new, and then, you know, there's some stat that he broke this record or whatever. You know, I'm always impressed that these stats, who finds them? Like,
I think we have experts who detail. I tell you what, though, the delivery could be better, because I've just said he was 54 days leading this year. That's not the case, is it? 30-odd days leading this year, 54 days leading the Grand Tour in total. One more equals Roglic. But yes, they're available readily now, and that's the thing. I think I said this earlier on now, just chatting with colleagues off air. We're doing a sound check with Sean and Colton and everybody else. Jonathan was chatting to us, and it does seem, doesn't it now, every time that Pogačar rides, something's happening. Something new happens. There's a new sequence added or record broken. We are in an incredible era of competition in professional cycling. And just another one to add into it. You know, you can include this Melissa bike here. We're looking at Christophe Laporte there, the European champion. But yesterday was the 10th time that Pogačar and Vingegaard have been first and second on a tour stage. That's never been done before by the two same competitors. So we're in an outrageous era where something's changing all the day. And yes, to answer the question there, I think there's an army of statisticians now required behind the scene to put all these things together. Obviously, some of them relevant, not all of them certainly are. But in this case, he's smiling. The only stat that matters for him is if he and Niels Pollitt are still smiling on the Promenade des Anglais on Sunday. When we get to
that heart rate is crazy.
He'll be in the yellow jersey and winning a Tour de France for the 3rd time. Meanwhile, Batman's back on the scene. Thought there was a sequel coming out this year, and Groenewegen looking for a sequel in terms of stage wins. He's got one already. He'll need everything to be right, even all the mechanical stuff behind the scenes. And that's where we're going now. Jonathan, to talk about Alberto Contador and Ivan Millan.
Here is Alberto Contador with Ivan Millan, and he says, well, we're here with Ivan Millan right before the stage finishes in Nîmes. Tell us, as the mechanical technician, how have the bikes changed, and what are the main changes from 7 years ago until now? Well, the truth is that there is always a lot of evolution. We came from tubular to tubeless and disc brakes. Now the developments are bigger than before. Well, for example, on a flat stage like today, what does Carlos Rodriguez have? He's 6th in the GC standings. Well, he has 56, 11.3 chainring. Well, this was used before during time trials, yes, and nowadays it's used all the time. Before you were using a 56 or 55 chainring for time trials. Now what do you use? Well, in our team, we use from 60 to 68. This is very important, something I'm very interested in, about pressure. Before there were 8 to 9 kilos, so 9 bars of pressure. Now with tubeless, how much do they use? Between 4.5 and 5.5. But with 4.5, he needs to, it's what we use nowadays, and from what I've heard from the riders, it's even faster. And about the size, it is 26, 28 or 30. We have 28 at the rear, 25 at the front, because with our wheel and the tyre rim, it's the fastest combination for our bike. Something else that's reality too, narrower handlebars. Well, until the minimum of 36 that's allowed by the UCI, we have a lot of 40 and 38 things that were inconceivable before. But for manoeuvrability, is that more accurate in terms of carbon, building of the bike frames? Does that change much or not? I think it's more elaborate. They're always looking for something lighter. What we can see, there are small changes, try to optimize every single watt. This is what allows the records in the climbs to keep on being beaten.
Gracias, Ivan, Alberto, and Jonathan there doing his best translation from Spanish. Jono, lunchtime. What have you been cooking up?
I've been doing some duck, Rob, which is always one of my favourites. But I have to say, I actually cooked this last night, and I know this is going to sound like the least modest I've ever been. And believe me, I've been pretty arrogant on this programme before. But it's the best duck I've ever cooked. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And I was really, really happy with it. And you know that the times you cook and you're a bit disappointed when you cook a meal, because especially when it's your own meal, you just can't enjoy it. But I really enjoyed this. It's duck breast. If you're in France, you can get hold of really good magret canard, and it will be a lot thicker, and therefore I would probably advise you to cook it for quite a bit longer than I cooked the duck breast that I was cooking. But in Britain, duck breasts tend not to be more than about 3 to 4 centimeters thick, so they really aren't that thick. So as a consequence, I would for these cooking instructions, you've just got to go with the flow, experiment, I would say. But I remember years ago in a restaurant in Paris, I used to have a really delicious magret canard, which was served with mushrooms and mashed potato, and that's what I tried to replicate last night. So got the pan really nice. I made my mashed potato. That you can work that out for yourselves. It's quite easy. But I made it with creme fraiche and a bit of butter, so incredibly rich. And then for the duck breasts, a bit of shallot and garlic and thyme in the pan with some butter and oil. When that was at a good heat, dropped in the duck breasts on the fat side, covered it, cooked that for 3 minutes, took the lid off, turned them, cooked them for another 3 minutes, took them out, wrapped them in tin foil, and then poured in a glass of white wine, and then cooked the mushrooms, covered for about 5 minutes, chucked in the duck right at the end just to give it a little heat through for the last minute or so, and then served it. So the duck sliced rosé on top of the bed of mushrooms with a bit of mashed potato and a little bit of rocket just for an extra colour, and it was really, really tasty. So that recipe, along with all of the others from this year's Tour de France, you can find on Instagram at JHBFoodieCyclist. If you like duck, this one is definitely one to try out, because as I said, it works well.
Jono, you sound like you want your own lunch. I'll let you go and have it. Thanks for that, mate. Sean Kelly, by the way, salivating, watching on. How are we, Sean?
Hello. Hello, all. Welcome back.
Oh, we'll welcome Sean back properly in a minute. First, it's Adam Blythe time. Let's see what he's got.
So, a little bit of information. In around 10 kilometres time, that is when we start to turn, and the wind is really blowing a gale. I've just got one of the helicopters up behind me, which is probably not helping, but the wind is as strong as ever. It's really blowing, and when we turn that corner, that's when we're expecting it to all kick off. If you look at the peloton at the moment, it's started to spread right across the road, so the team's wanting to come to the front more, and the sports directors behind, we just got Jake Alula going past. I asked if I could talk to a few of them, but they said after. So they want to be on the radio. They want to be available on the radio. They've been looking at the Velo Viewer, looking at the map. They have the team cars in front of the bike race, looking at the wind. So they seem quite nervous. They want to make sure all hands are on deck if they're needed to be. I have a feeling things are starting to hop up. Back to you, commentators. Hopefully it's going to kick off.
Adam with his famous enthusiasm again, but I tell you what, it's not without foundation, Larry, because look at this peloton, left-hand side, white jerseys of UAE moving up. A few of your teammates on the right as we look at it now, moving up to for Decathlon Agir Desert. Left-hand side, you saw a little conversation a minute ago while John was regaling us with stories of duck breast. We saw Chris Juhl Jensen in the orange talking to Sylvain Tillier at the front. Astana there, EF are there. The nerves are building now.
Absolutely insane heart rate. Wow.
Actually, days like today, it can be some of the most dangerous days in the peloton, because everyone's relaxed. everyone's sort of chilling. They think, okay, there's no breakaway, there's no stress. But even on a day like today, there can be just the slightest amount of wind, and you catch guys sleeping. And so if someone tries something, I remember a few years ago in the UAE tour one year, okay, so there's always wind there, you know, you're in the middle of the desert. It's not exactly here, but I remember it was a super easy day. There might have been a breakaway, not very big one, and it was just going to be a sprint. And there was a little bit of wind. Everyone was nervous, but then everyone realized that there wasn't enough wind to split the race. So everyone was relaxed, sitting back, and I remember sitting probably a bit too far back in the peloton, and I saw Caleb Ewan was just in front of me, and you know, he was the big favorite for the day. So I said, oh, well, obviously I'm fine. And all of a sudden, you heard a few people yelling, and you look up, and you just see the peloton in the gutter, and Quick Step going to the front and smashing it. And actually, yeah, it split into a bunch of groups, and it never came back. And I wouldn't even say it was only because of the wind. It was more because everyone switched off. And as soon as there was that gap, yeah, we couldn't close it. So I think that's something to watch out for today. I mean, okay, this is the Tour de France, it's not the UAE Tour, and yeah, there's a lot of people who, they don't have the right to switch off, so, you know, I think all the GC guys are definitely going to be on, and most of the sprinters too, but it's something to watch out for, and it's something that could happen on a day like this.
We're going up to a change of direction in a moment. Comes in the town of Gignac, at just over 109 kilometers to go. Sean's watching on eagerly. And Sean, we've just seen Mathieu van der Poel appear close to the front of the peloton. Michael Matthews is in front of him. On van der Poel's wheel is Ackerman, who's always up to the front in these sorts of situations too.
Yes, well, I think we have seen pretty much all day, except before the official start the rollout. There's nobody calm at all here on this stage today. You can see there's that little bit of nervousness here, and of course the team directors, well, we have been hearing what the team directors have been relaying to the riders. Just be careful, keep in the front, and that just builds the nervousness.
We'll be going back to Adam in a minute. Speed's up in the 40s right now. Nothing silly for professional cycling. And Adam's just sent me another message. He said he got a bit overexcited. He said it was in just a couple of kilometers, this change of direction and wind. He's just texted, correction, 84 kilometers to go. So maybe stand down for a minute. But we did see a few teams. Maybe they're listening to Adam Blythe on the telly, and that's what happened.
Well, that's possible. The DSs are listening to Eurosport, and yeah, they're relaying the information to the riders. But yeah, he's making them a bit nervous too early. Another 20 kilometers to go, and it will be interesting. You know, as you go further into the day as well, there's a possibility of that, the wind getting up a bit more. But you can see here, and talking about Michael Matthews, he has been riding on the front end of the peloton all pretty much since that attack of was it Stefan Kung in the earlier part. And yeah, there's riders sitting on the rear. We can see Wout van Aert, he has been down the rear quite a lot. So some riders can relax a bit more, but yeah, it's always really nervous times here. And yeah, this is the Tour of France, and this is the big one of the year. And you know, we hear all about, you know, the teams and talking. This is the big exposure of the season, so everybody's on high alert on a stage like this. And yeah, as I said in the early part of our program, this was a stage where we're rubbing our hands, we're saying, please God, there'll be a lot of wind blowing on that day. We'll have a really exciting stage. Unfortunately, the earlier part of this stage is not happening, but it can happen at any time, and if we listen to Adam, it certainly can happen in any minute.
It's funny how we wish for different things when we're watching on TV rather than being in the peloton, because I can tell you most of the riders are probably pretty happy with how it's going today, but yeah, I'm sure there's a few out there who would have liked some wind.
If you could have heard some of our conversations in the pub the night before those Giro stages, we hope this happens, we hope that happens. Yeah, you wouldn't have been a happy boy, would you?
Exactly.
Well, we change quickly, Larry. When we get out of the peloton, we love to see good racing. When we're in the peloton, of course, and it's wet, cold weather or it's windy conditions, we always moan, and a lot of us moan. But when you're out of the peloton, you don't give a damn, and you just say, hopefully it's horrible conditions, wet, cold, wind. We just love it all.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, I'd love to see some wind today.
Peloton just passing through. Beautiful looking Gignac down here. You're watching stage 16 of the Tour de France. Grisons to Nîmes, 188 kilometers today. Grisons used as a first-time Tour start stage town. We had a Vuelta finish.
His heart rate is absolutely insane today.
And we're on our way to Nîmes. Last time we were here, it was
Looks like wearing a shirt has really kind of
today marks the 20th finish here.
sped up the process.
That was won by a gentleman named Louis Trousselier back in 1905. As well as Paulette, of course. We talked about victories for Cavendish in 2008. That was number 4 of 35. And Alexander Kristoff, 2014, when he broke Jack Bauer's heart just 50 meters from the finish line. On the way there, we often encounter wind. And if you're switching on for the first time today, this is the start of the third and final week of the Tour. The last maximum points day in the green jersey competition. By that, I mean 50 points for the stage winner. There's a gap of 86 points between Biniam Girmay and Jasper Philipsen at the moment. The Philipsen's team have been riding all day. Yet again, on a flatter day, we don't have a breakaway yet. I'll tell you what, Larry, since you came into the commentary box, your former teammate, Mr. Blythe, has been peppering me with messages on WhatsApp. And instead of doing that, I think by the magic of television, we're about to go and cross to the man on the moto himself. Let's go to Adam Blythe. Adam Blythe, live on the motorbike. It's like you've never been away, mate.
Like I've never been away, apart from it's a lot hotter here, Rob. It is 36 degrees at the minute. I am red hot. Ridiculous. I've just had some ice cubes from Bahrain. I've just shoved them down my neck. They've melted already. It is roasting.
No Aperol Spritz then yet for you. Of course, plenty of work to be done, but I know there's a good friend of yours in the commentary box with us today, and you have been sending message after message after message. You said... Was that it? Have we lost Adam already? I tell you what, Adam, that's a good start, isn't it? We've lost you already, mate. The signal's going. What's happening?
Oh, Rob, if you can hear me, I think the helicopter's just messing with my signal a bit. We're just going through the feed zone now, but I think I might have lost you, so... I'm very sorry if you have lost me. Hopefully I can get back in touch with you in a little minute. But yes, just going through the feed zone. Not everyone taking the feed bags. That is probably quite a big sign that things are getting stressful within that peloton too. You know, not everyone being able to take a feed bag. They don't want to lose that position for a feed bag, especially in the feed zone. So a lot of riders missing out. So I'm sure there'll be some riders coming back to the team car if there's time to get some fluids back on board, some ice packs, some nutrition.
Well, the magic of television, perhaps not at its best today. We will go back to Adam after, but Larry, I was told...
What is going on today?
The Tour of Qatar crosswinds. It was a team time trial, and the fact that you're laughing means that you must have had a bit of a disaster. What happened?
Oh, no, actually, we won the race. It was a great race, but I think Adam, well, yeah, it was a pretty funny story because we had an amazing team. We had Steve Cummings, we had Greg Van Avermaet, Adam, Brent Bookwalter, Mickey Scher, some other guys, and we had probably the favorite team for the team time trial. It was also a team time trial on road bikes, and I would say in that era we were probably one of the first teams to have an actual aero bike. So yeah, it was this BMC aero bike, which was quite heavy and insanely stiff, but it was super fast. And so yeah, we had this super strong team, and Well, let's just say Adam, I think, took one pull and then sat on the back, and he never pulled again, you know. And we had a super strong team, so we were pulling through hard. And say I made it through at least half of the team time trial, and then I was also on the limit, so I had to go to the back. And the funny thing was, Adam, he was sort of like the conductor of the train, you know. He would just go up, up, up every time someone needed to get back in the line, and yeah, anyway. Luckily, I was able to get in and take a big, you know, pull, and I sacrificed myself. Adam, you know, just sat on the back the whole time, but he did finish in the group, and then, and yeah, you know, I think he was at least top 5 overall in the GC of that race that year. So Adam is quite a wizard in the crosswinds. I'm sure he's told everyone that, but you know. Usually what they say is you always have to stay in the front echelon. You know, you always got to keep rotating. But Adam had some incredible ability to sit in the middle of the 2 lines. So there'd be the one line moving right and the one line moving left. And Adam would be stuck in the middle there, and he would somehow not be able to touch the wind, but always make the first echelon. So yeah, we did win that team time trial. Probably not a whole lot thanks to Adam, but he was there, and we have some really good memories from that race. And yeah, actually, a side note, just going back to, I wanted to mention about the feed zone was, you know, Adam said that perhaps people weren't taking feed bags because it was a bit too quick. But I think actually the thing is, on a day like today, it's so easy to go back to the car that it's actually something to do. So sometimes when there's no breakaway, everyone's going easy, you can see everyone's just kind of cruising along. Going back to the car, yeah, it gives you something to do. It kind of like breaks up the day, and it's easy to go back and get food, get water, get drinks. So people are happy to go back to the car rather than to take a feedback. And the other thing is, when it's so easy like this, everyone's going to be eating less. So the nutrition, you know, it's really adjusted based on the intensity of the day, and seeing how easy it is today, people are going to be eating less than the big mountain days.
Yes, well, Adam, of course, a question for Larry. Was Adam as bad as he is when he is out on the bike there and, you know, talking about the wind? As a rider, he must wreck your head if he's all the time, come on, up the front here, it's going to get windy, we're turning left, because he promises all the time that it's going to turn, it's going to be windy. Rarely it works, but sometimes it does. But as a rider, he must be a real one where he'd wreck your head a bit if he's on like that all the time as a teammate.
I think the thing that broke your head a bit was that sometimes you'd never see him, but then magically he'd be there in the most important moments. So, you know, I think one of the other funny things was a lot of times we'd do these races and everyone would sort of look at what their watts were after the stage, and somehow, miraculously, Adam did 20% less than everyone else. So it was pretty crazy. So he definitely had a gift for navigating the peloton and, yeah, these tricky situations like today.
I have to forget, and I must confess, I forgot about BMC then. When I was asking about the team time trial, the reason I thought it was going to be a bit of a nightmare is I thought he was referring to an Aqua Blue incident or something like that. Of course, you weren't noted as top team time trialist back then, but Adam, as you say, always strong in the wind, great tactician, the sort of guy that comes alive when it's windy and it's up north in the classics. Coming alive on the bike for us, of course. 102 k's to go. And we're making our way northeast. Across the south to Larry Warback's country. Of course, you've lived southeast of France for a long time. You've been there so long that I think we even had a little rendition of La Marseillaise while you were speaking there from a gentleman on the side of the road. You must enjoy it down there.
Oh yeah, it's an amazing place to live. I think as a pro bike rider, there might not be anywhere better. In Europe, the weather is probably the best you can get in Europe, and then we have all these beautiful climbs and mountains, and you know, contrary to popular belief, actually we don't have a whole lot of traffic once you're out of the city. So, you know, I think a lot of people, at least the image in France, of the south of France, is that, oh, there's a lot of traffic, why would you want to live there? It's not easy to ride your bike. But actually, you can get out of in Nice, for example, you can get out of the town in less than 10 minutes, and as soon as you're on the mountain roads, you have very little traffic, and yeah, even a lot less traffic than I've seen in the Alps when I've been training there in the summer. So it's really an awesome place to ride a bike, and yeah, it's a pleasure to live there.
Yes, well, question for Larry as the peloton is settled down again, looking like it could be a big sprint at the end. Our Irish man, Sam Bennett, we had big hopes. Our followers back home had big expectations going to this tour because he did come right. 4 days at Dunkerque, he was looking really good. But in this tour, he hasn't been up in the sprints really where we were expecting him to be. What do you think of his chances for today?
Well, I actually talked to him this morning, and I was hoping he'd be, ready and raring to go. But I think he's a little bit under the weather, but I still wouldn't count him out. I guess before this tour, I kept telling everyone I could see Sam. Even if he doesn't pull something off early in the race, I could see him winning on the Champs-Élysées, and then they informed me that there was no Champs-Élysées this year.
You've not seen the signs about that. The tour's coming around town this year.
Yeah, I forgot about that small detail. But, I think Sam's someone who, when things aren't going his way, he doesn't just back down, and he has like a hunger really deep inside. So, yeah, I would say each time he doesn't arrive to get a result, it makes him just that much hungrier. So it gives me hope for today. We'll see.
I'm glad you mentioned Sam Bennett there. He told his team, and I know you all had to do these little interviews because I was trolling through your website at the start of the year, Larry, for information. You had to give like your best sporting memory and things like that, and then they put up an article on it. I don't know if it's something you do every year or when you join the team or whatever, but they try and give a bit of a bio, an alternative bio on a lot of riders. And Sam says his best sporting memory actually today was on the Champs-Élysées. 2020, beating Mars Pedersen, Peter Sagan to the line. And of course he was in the green jersey then, wasn't he? He says he's, elsewhere I was looking down, he's a big fan of cars. And apparently he's into hip hop and rap. Is he the music man on the bus?
I've only unfortunately done one race with him this year, so it was, I think, his first race with the team, and I'll be honest, he was a little bit timid as he doesn't speak a whole lot of French, and I think I was the only English speaker at the race. So
still,
yeah, he struggles. He tries, he makes an effort, and he's getting better. But yeah, he could maybe work on it a little bit.
Well, that's disappointing to hear because I remember when he was riding with us in the on post-sharing action team, I said, Sam, bike racing, it's a great opportunity to learn languages because in the peloton, personnel or that, they don't worry about making mistakes, and that's what you've got to do. You've got to get stuck in there and take that advantage because at the end of the career, it's just a great thing to have to be able to speak a couple of lingos.
Absolutely, that's something that always amazes me with a lot of pro cyclists. Yeah, another Irishman, Nico Roche. He speaks like 5 languages fluently, and I think there are a lot of guys in the bunch. They have this ability with languages, which is so cool. It's like, yeah, maybe a lot of guys don't go to school or this or that. They go straight into the sport. But yeah, some of these skills that you, I guess, acquire over the course of so many years in the peloton, yeah, it's things that you could never get outside of this sport.
Speak on behalf of Sean here, and he keeps up with his Flemish and his French. Can be heard on the phone, keeping in touch with old friends. And it's something as well that I guess you've treasured going into later life, Sean. You still keep up with all of those acquaintances and practice the languages.
Yes, well, I think it's, as Larry said, it's a great opportunity when you're in there at the peloton and you have, the opportunity to make a name for yourself, first of all. Make money if you're very successful, learn languages, and all of those opportunities are there, and the language ones is a great thing to have after your sport if you want to go into the team management or else something great to have.
Welcome back with Remco Evenepoel towards the back of the peloton. White jersey on his back. Best young rider prize his, unless he falls away in the last week. A couple of riders falling away off the start list, I'm afraid, before the day. both with COVID. Chris Harper, the Australian from Jeko Alula, not starting today. That added to the news that Maxim von Gils of Lotto Destiny came out yesterday that he wouldn't be continuing in the Tour. We've seen a few increased measures around buses and stuff. Spanish media were rabbiting away this morning on the social channel saying, oh no, look out in Pogacar's team because Yates and Wellens have turned up in separate cars. There's masks everywhere. It's a bit of a lottery out there at the minute, and part of the Tour is staying healthy as well. Of course, we keep our fingers crossed for everyone.
Yeah, I didn't see that about Chris Harper, but it makes sense because yesterday I went looking for who did the longest rest day ride, because the day before the rest day before, he did like 140K.
He did a heck of a lot, yeah. Let's go to Wout van Aert.
Morning, Wout. You've been very close so far. Can you just give us a little bit of an insight into how your condition has built? Do you think you're going better now than you were in the opening week of the Tour?
Yeah, for sure. Feel better. Recovery goes smoother, and yeah, like it was not something crazy, but performance uphill last Sunday was for sure already way better than like on the Galibier stage. So yeah, I think I'm getting there, but it's always more the feeling than you can see it in the numbers.
And another potential opportunity sprint-wise, but maybe some crosswinds near the end. So you'll be on duty for the win and also for looking after Jonas.
Yeah, like it's a Tour de France. We need to be sharp every day, and I think in this tour we have already a few times when we thought the wind would play a role, and never was really good enough. So also today we need to be sharp, but yeah, it's also an opportunity to try and win a stage, and it's, for me personally, one of the last opportunities.
It should be the final opportunity for any of the sprinters today. There's a lot of climbing in the other stages that we're unsure of how they're going to finish in. We're just seeing a little bit more activity at the front of the peloton now. Andermatt are through the centre. Of course, they have been in Germay in the green jersey. On the left, as we look at it, Jasper Philipsen has joined the line of riders that included Sylvain Dillier, Axel Laurence and the world champion. And this is why the graphic comes up at just the right time. It's like they're listening to us. We're off to Les Matelettes in 5 kilometres. That means that we're going to have an intermediate sprint. 20 points are up for grabs. And these are going to be an important 20 points, Sean Kelly, because they're going to sort of set the tone, maybe, to what might come later. As long as Biniam Girmay doesn't have a big difference here negatively with Jasper Philipsen, then he'll feel a lot better going into the finish today.
Yes, well, here is going to be an important one, that there is not that big difference between Germay and Philipsen. And also in the finish, of course, today, and we touched on that in the earlier part, you know, those days, and today especially, with big points going at the finish today, not to lose out for Bini Germay, and then he's really on the road to Nice here to win the green jersey. But there are other days as well where there are intermediate sprints in the earlier part of the mountain stages. But yeah, today's results at the end will be an important one, and it'll be interesting to see who else will get in the fight here for the points available in the intermediate sprint points, because the others, like, they are a half day down in the green jersey classification. They are way down. Kokar is at over 200 points down, so you know there's no way that he's ever going to get near taking the green jersey. But again, Kokar, he's going to keep up there, because as we heard from Philipsen, in case something happened to the man ahead in that classification, so I think we will see those three at least having a go here. But I don't think it'll be one of the most contested sprints for the green jersey classification this time.
We've got all the flags going on there. From all over the world, they've come to watch the Tour de France. On the way up the hill, Tour de France approaching, what is it, 4.5 kilometres to the intermediate sprint at Les Matelettes. 5% climb here. We've got one classified climb today. That comes a little further on, around 20 kilometres down the road from where we are now. And it's just at the top of this rise that we go ever so slightly downhill, and then in towards that intermediate sprint. Sean was talking about who he thinks might go for it. There are 70 points maximum available today in the sprint, and there's an 86-point difference between first and second. It was 50 for the stage, 20 for the first to the intermediate sprint. GC team still up here because of that just-in-case feeling as well. Given changes of direction and the wind. And supporters starting their holidays on a nice hot day. Memories of a lifetime for many of these. I hope we can get connected up with Adam again soon, because Mr. Fondo Paul's in the fully white outfit today, something that Adam will be raving about, I'm sure. It often means business, and that's the case. Today it should all be, however, for Jasper Philipsen. At the front.
Calm.
Pogacar sitting so close to the front. He's not moved all day really, apart from a couple of stops he's had. Movistar there with Gaviria. Still been a long time since they won a tour stage. And here we go. Over the top, we're going to see the first accelerations. And Intermarché with Binyam Girmay moving up. They've started the party here, Mr. Kelly.
Yes, well, here we are. Just keep off as long as possible. Keep your men in the position, and then, you know, hit it hard and really give a good lead out, and that's what they do. And yeah, we can see here Intermarché are the ones in control at the moment.
3Ks to go to the intermediate sprint. On the right, you can see his Royal Premier Tech move up. For Intermarché, it's down to, what is it now, 7 riders, with Thijssen going home outside the time limit the other day. Turnison is the man sitting at the moment alongside Binyam Girmay.
The other thing I would say we should watch out for after this intermediate sprint is these are always the moments where on an easy day like this you could see an attempt for the breakaway. So someone who maybe wanted to go earlier this morning and didn't go, they kind of sat back, held it off, and they said, okay, if there's no breakaway, I'll go right after the intermediate sprint. So you might see someone just follow the Intermarché train and try to start a breakaway, because they'll have a lot better chance starting at 95k to go than 170.
Think back to the recent Giro. Happened very early on in the race, didn't it? Benjamin Thomas ended up winning from a breakaway after they'd gone. I think it was either an intermediate sprint or one of those new Inter-Giro classifications. And it's with that sprint coming up that I'm going to hand over to Colton Kirby for the next little while, because things are getting very quick.
Thank you, Rob. Extraordinarily quick. Well, if you thought for a moment that the green jersey on the back of Binyam Girmay was simply going to follow Jasper Philipsen in a moment such as this, then think again. It's a big statement coming up right now. See Inish Grenadiers also moving up, accenting what Larry was saying about the possibility of a breakaway, speeding on, pacing on afterwards. Don't be surprised if Kwiatkowski suddenly indeed goes a little bit further on. Good to hear from Larry Warbass. You'll be hearing more from him tomorrow. We welcome back Robin McEwen into the commentary position. Bauhaus, De Lee, Jasper Philipsen and Binyam Girmay being picked out for you. And no surprise either to see Michael Matthews also just drifting off and up towards the 4. Matthews just riding the centre line at the moment. He's been extraordinarily active throughout the entire day. You never know, might well be him. Also starting to buzz here, it's the world champion, Mathieu van der Poel. He's on lead-out duty, of course, for Jasper Philipsen. And so if you thought this was going to be a benign moment for them, think again. In fact, they're lined out side by side here. It's Intermarché Wanty on the edge of the road, and a little bit of Elbridge, or is it just leaning into the gap? Nervous times. Brian Coquard has managed to encamp himself up towards the front. There's Ackermann just a little bit out of position for the time being. Binyam Girmay looks like he's locked in at the wrong side just for now. More freedom on offer, it seems, for Philipsen. Let's have a look. A little bit of blocking, a little bit of barging. None of that, thankfully, not too bad anyway. All fair in love, war and sprinting. And up through the centre. Is it Gaviria is coming to join the fun here? And finally we get our release. Coquard on the barriers here. And Binny is on following mode. Centre of the road opens up for him. Brian Coquard makes a statement. And in fact, some places there between Jesper Philipsen and indeed Biniam Girmay. I think Philipsen was runner-up on that one. But Girmay possibly in 5th place or possibly 6th. So a little eating into the gap then. But Sean, that was busy.
Yes, it was very busy. We could see there that Albertson was very much involved. We could see Van der Poel there with the lead out from the team of Albertson de Koning. It looked like Axel Laurence was up there, and yeah, not getting the places maybe they would have liked here, but again, it was a really contested one. I was not expecting to be as many teammates involved in the mix there trying to lead out their sprinters.
A lot at stake, Robbie, and clearly points were being hunted here by Jesper Philipsen. Biniam Girmay kind of on moderating duties, I think it's fair to say. Talk us through this, Robbie.
Well, Girmay, of course, tracking Jesper Philipsen, but he got disconnected from his lead out. And then I started to look at the riders in between. Anthony Turgis coming into the day 5th in the points classification, but trying to get them. Brian Coquard 3rd coming into the point standings. So they're all trying to just shore up their positions within this competition. Arnaud Delis, the one pushed down to 5th there. Girmay coming back almost to the wheel of Jesper Philipsen, but it's riders sort of trying to shore up their positions, and it's actually very, very close between Coquard, who got the best of that one. He was 5 points clear of Delis going into today, another point clear of Turgis. So very, very close between 3rd and 5th, and that's why we saw just such a number of riders up there trying to get themselves points. And then at the same time, the very next shot we saw after the intermediate sprint was a picture of Mark Cavendish hovering about 50 metres off the back of the peloton, getting a fresh bidon from the team car. Zero interest in the intermediate sprint, and saving himself for what's going to be an absolutely hectic and chaotic run into the finish. If that's how hard fought the intermediate sprint was, I'll wait for the finish.
Yeah, fireworks most certainly, I assume. I think Biniam Girmay actually was 3rd across the line there. Late throw, the road opened up for him dead centre, and he managed to just limit the damage, I think, and the space between himself and Jesper Philipsen. A couple from Total Energies deciding that this is worth the candle. Gachinard is going up. They were one of the duo very early on, with Sandy Dujardin was up there with Kung, but that came to naught. But Gachinard's taken it on. Thought there was another bridging over, one of his teammates, but I think it was just a reverse shot of this man alone for the time being. It's a long way to go on your own there, Robbie.
Oh, well, absolutely a long way to go. Might have been hoping for a few other brave souls to come out and join him and make something of this. But nonetheless, a young Frenchman, he'll say, I'm off the front in the Tour de France, trying, can't win the sprint, might as well have a go at this.
Sean, they were generating their own wind as we come past Vieux-le-Fort. Not the gale or the hoolie we were hoping for just yet, but on some of the peaklets, and we've got a few coming up. There's an intermediate KOM, the only climb of the day that's actually indeed quantified with points on offer. It's at Fambotou. But when we got to the last peak, just as that downhill run into the sprint around Port-Chabon, it was really blowing up top, so there is wind out there.
There is, and we're in a section again where it's pretty well covered here, as you can see, and you know, it's still nervous there, and you can see the riders that were on the front of the bunch leading up to that intermediate sprint point. A lot of the GC men were up there, and we heard from Larry Warbass there as well. After the intermediate sprint, there's always a concern that a team might try something, so you have to be in position to be ready for that. But now they've backed off again. We can see where we're going along here, really well covered for the moment, but if we can take anything from what Adams is telling us all morning and right through the day, it can get open, and it is open. Like with 50 k's to go with Sumirs, that's where it does get quite a lot open, and if the wind is blowing, well then, you know, it could be a problem. Depend on what rate it is blowing at, it could split the peloton, and we will see again, you know, the team will get orders and the riders will be well informed of what's coming up. But yeah, it's all depending now how strong the wind is going to be for this final run of 2 and a bit hours to the finish.
Shudder to come boost looks absolutely spectacular. We'll be hearing more, presumably, deeper into the race from John Harris-Bass, who's just taken himself off for a comfort break. Good for him. Sean's also going to duck out for a wee while, leaving me and Robbie for a short while anyway before Danny rejoins us. Some spectacular sights around here, Robbie. Was it ever somewhere you ever thought maybe you could indeed hang your bones out for a while?
I would absolutely hang my bones out in this particular area. I always used to really enjoy when you had a rest day down in this particular region. It was really nice just to go for an easy pedal around. For me, on a rest day, that entailed about a pedal of an hour, maybe an hour and a half if I was feeling particularly good. But it was always a huge bonus if you got, accommodation-wise, anything that was even in the vicinity of a chateau. There's some really beautiful places down around here, and we have had a number of good ones. I've also had some shockers.
Do you remember accommodation doping when they used to? There was complaints that Richie Port was actually he had himself a permanent bedroom in the back of the bus, and so he didn't have to worry about who his bedmate was going to be. It was all there laid out for him. Didn't quite garner the success he'd hoped, and then all of a sudden there was a clampdown that the riders had to have the hotels that were given to them, almost drawn lots for them, weren't there, by the authorities of each of the different races. I remember Andre Greipel himself really bitterly complaining after 3 nights of being bitten by mozzies, saying that the quality of his hotels were absolutely disgraceful. Yeah, and he thought it was deliberate. I think that was on the Giro.
Well, during the Tour de France, what has always been the aim of the organisation is, number one, don't spend too much money on the accommodation for the teams. That was above all. But what they tried to do was balance out the number of stars that each team had hotel-wise across the entire tour. That generally meant a combination of 2- and 3-star accommodations. They said it repeated this sprint. Mathieu van der Poel leaving the door open there for Brian Coquard to come through. Turgis in his wheel, so looking to defend his spot. Biniam Girmay with a good acceleration right at the end. Don't think he quite got Turgis, but in a moment we'll see confirmation of the placings from the intermediate sprint. But again, I just noticed that Jasper Philipsen really got himself boxed in and trying to find the exit to the left, and they just kept coming past, and Brian Coquard wound it up and was gone. And Turgis might have been better just to keep himself in the wheel of Brian Coquard rather than swinging out. Yeah, it was a close one between him and Girmay. Philipsen was second and Delhi was fifth. But to Biniam Girmay, it doesn't matter too much, and 80-odd point lead in that competition.
Phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah, as long as he stays upright and gets to Nice, that green jersey is his. But Brian Coquard, he'll take a fair bit of confidence out of that sprint.
I think so. It's a question of timing late on. The last roundabout today, by the way, is only with, 350 metres to go. We're playing with the ring road, Robbie, and therein lies its own problems.
Well, the thing with that finish, there's 10 roundabouts in the final 10 kilometres. There's 4 in the final 2.5. The 3-kilometre banner is just before a 90-degree left-hand turn, so a quarter of a roundabout. That could bring the problems in itself. Had they put the safe zone back to 4 kilometres to go, it gives the GC riders and their teammates keeping them up the front, gives them time to get out of the area, vacate the space needed by the sprinters and their teammates. Now it's at 3. They'll go through the 3K banner for safety, but almost immediately turn left through that roundabout. Then it's a very quick succession of roundabouts after that. It's going to be more complicated for them to sort of not to be in the way and actually in harm's way as the sprint teams try to do their thing. But in particular, that last roundabout, 380 metres to go, it's passage only on one side of it. It's 2 lanes, it's quite wide, but it's the way it's set up and you swing into it, it's going to be a really fast entrance, but you go a little further around it to take the exit, taking you straight ahead, so that the angle of the exit is greater than the angle of the entrance. So I think we'll see a lot of carrying really high speed into it and possibly misjudging the exit. And whoever gets that right will put themselves in prime position. I just have the feeling that there's going to be those who maybe misjudge it, get themselves a little bit too hot in the exit of the roundabout, and have to then dab the brakes, freewheel, adjust their line, and could get overtaken, swamped, and ruin their own sprint so close to the line.
With so many twists and turns, I think we're probably able to call it a technical finish, despite the fact that it's essentially a straight road interrupted by roundabouts. And who's going to navigate them as well as you possibly can? We're going to be hearing from Alexander Christoph in a few moments' time. He's not bad when it comes to a bruising finale, and he's actually still got his entire team intact. So Soren Varenshold should be working on behalf of Alexander Christoph a little bit later on. He was haranguing his own team for losing them, getting disengaged from his own lead out, which he deemed to be not his fault. So, you know, the old Viking can get a bit tetchy on occasion. Maybe today he'll be smiles. Let's find out.
Alexander Christoph, you're going to Nîmes today, where you won a stage 10 years ago. How is it to go back to where you won?
It's a decade ago, so it's a long time, but yeah, it's good memory still. Maybe it can happen again, we will see.
How are you feeling? How are you dealing with the fatigue here while you're approaching the third week?
I was just laying in my room all day yesterday and not doing anything, so I hope it had recovered the legs a bit. I was really fatigued last day in the Pyrenees, but right now I feel okay. So watching my roommate getting his blue, what you call moustache, and was an easy day, so yeah, we'll see today. It's a bit windy, but I think actually the wind will pay less and less, because it will go down, so it will not be a big effect, I think, for the race, but you never know.
Believing the wind will ebb. Let's wait and see. There's our man up the road at the moment, Thomas Gashida. A minute and a half he has on the peloton as it stands. Robbie, I was just looking through those who would have been part of a lead out that are now missing. Significantly, of course, Gerben Tyson for Biniam Girmay. He was never really supposed to be part of Biniam's lead out. He was supposed to be the man who was led out. Yeah, exactly. And then Binny goes and does it solo on stage 3, and all of a sudden everyone's believing in Binny. Then, of course, he doubles up on stage 8, and everyone's saying, my goodness, he's on stellar form, and he did that with a lead out with Gerben Tyson because it was a lumpy day, and then the entire team fell behind Biniam Girmay. Naturally enough, he gets himself a third stage win on stage 12, which was as close to a full-on bunch sprint as you're likely to get. And then Gerben Tyson abandons. Had enough, he's gone home. I don't think there was anything untoward about it, but it must have been heartbreaking for Gerben Tyson to be the supported man with Biniam supposedly having a free hand, and the greatness has just poured down on Biniam Girmay. I mean, inter-team rivalry does happen, Robbie, you know this.
It does, and sometimes someone has to play second fiddle, and unfortunately for Gerben Tyson, that Biniam Girmay ended up getting himself in a position to contend for the green jersey, which looks like now he will win it. So the decision has been the right one by the team. But when someone gets themselves in that position to dominate one of the competitions, in particular for the sprinters, the green, then you have to say to the other guy who was picked in the team to come and do the flat bunch sprints, very sorry, Gerben, but we're going to have to put all our resources into Binny. And we'd rather you are not up there challenging him, but rather trying to help, which, to his credit, he did do. On that second stage win of Biniam Girmay's, that little uphill kicker, Gerben Tyson did his job in the final few kilometres for the team and contributed to that win. So I think it's a really close-knit team, and nonetheless, I think it's really understandable that Gerben Tyson will be somewhat disappointed with the lack of opportunity that he's had throughout this race. But he's young. Hopefully he'll get another go at it. It just depends now how the team go forward in selecting their tour team. And if they say, well, you know what, we're just going pure lead-out man team for Binny and not even taking another sprinter.
Confirmation of how the sprint indeed finished. Biniam Girmay was indeed in 4th place with Jesper Philipsen in 2nd. So there's 4 points have been trimmed off the gap between the pair of them. It's still substantial. So 17 points went to Jesper Philipsen, 13 went to Biniam Girmay, but still a very handsome lead overall. The points tally for Biniam Girmay is 376. At the end of today, he could bust 400. Jesper Philipsen on 294. So sterling effort by Jesper Philipsen. He could be getting his 3rd stage win, but Biniam Girmay has been a constant feature of the sprints, and as Robbie was saying, when it comes uphill, he has very few problems when it's a lumpy sprint approach, and indeed now it seems in a bunch sprint scenario as well. And that relaxed nature, Robbie, can add more power to your elbow, or indeed to the drive that you have. That intermediate sprint, Biniam Girmay just stayed really cool, and when the doors open, he just turned on the juice and went through the gap. It's fabulous.
Yeah, much like Philipsen, or even worse. So Biniam Girmay got himself really boxed in and sort of looked like really missing the opportunity. But he's got great patience. He's very cool and just doesn't panic. And when it did open up, he's obviously still got the legs to make a short acceleration and make up a number of positions. And that's been on show all throughout this tour when it's come to the bunch sprints. That very first one he won in Turin, gap opened up, he slotted into it, and it was a late rush, but he's got great acceleration. And again, the uphill, the third stage he won as well, he's got just an incredible turn of speed for a guy who you would look at him and sprinter isn't the first sort of specialty that would spring to mind when you look at Biniam Girmay. He's not that big muscular type. When we talk about the likes of Andre Greipels, Marcel Kittels, even a figure like Mark Cavendish, that short but stocky, muscular. Biniam Girmay is much more slightly built, but he obviously has those fast twitch muscle fibres which he uses to great effect.
Just looking at the opposite end of the age spectrum today, and Fabio Jacobs has gone. Van Welten's gone, as we know, who's out of time, sadly for him, over the Pyrenees. So John Degenkolb, I think he might get himself top 5 today. The alternative is Niels Eekhoff.
Crazy.
John Degenkolb, especially with the brutality of the roundabouts as they come thick and fast. He's an old dog that still learns new tricks, isn't he?
But he still knows how to do it. That's the other thing you don't forget.
Sunday is going to now be a 3-hour ride, even though I think that is Super Bowl. The 11th is my birthday, so we're going to have a birthday ride. Maybe I'll double up. So Friday is going to be interesting. Rest day before 3 hours could be good. All right, I'm really happy with today's ride. Really happy. I don't care too much about power. I care more about just efficiency. So yeah, I think we have to push 2-hour rides to 3-hour rides with just a little bit lower power to get their legs used to being in the saddle for so long.
Not today. He can get himself involved, but I don't think he has the pure speed to sort of.
I have to adjust the seat. The seat is way too far forward, which has been kind of adding stress to my groinal area, which is why I have to get out of the saddle sometimes. So I think his back will be a good thing. So
you just don't know. Dylan Groenewegen is terrible at positioning, and I think he was one of the ones that really suffered in the.
I've had this bike for
I'm not really certain it'll be Groenewegen today, but
almost 5 years.
Well, it'll be him for the team, I mean.
Oh, yes,
so
I understand.
Matthews doesn't have the speed to.
And it's been really solid.
The rest of the team. Dylan Groenewegen is absolutely the man for today. He's got the.
I just don't think he's going to win. That's what I meant. But
well,
yeah, let's see. Who's your pick today?
I won't say he can't. Well, in our predicted challenge on the breakaway, I was first pick, so I went for the favourite and went for Philipsen.
Danny Rosary joined us. Hello, Danny. It's kind of one of those days we just don't know whether we're stop-start emotionally about it, but the big hoolie hasn't blown up just yet. It's suggested itself on occasion, but it looks like we're waiting for a sprint party, doesn't it?
I think so, and I think even if there is a little bit of wind towards the final in that last 25 kilometres to go, it will still be a big bunch sprint final. It is that last opportunity, isn't it? So it's kind of that calm before the storm, as they say. But yeah, the last big quest for a stage win by the sprinters teams. 12 teams now without a stage win in this Tour de France, so some will be getting desperate.
Well, just one solitary King of the Mountains point up for grabs, and Thomas Gachinard is going to grab that. Category 4 test, sails over the line. There'll be a modicum of prize money as well for him, and it's nice that he's just animated. He's got 2 minutes and 11 for the time being. A thankless task being in the break today, Danny. We saw they almost fell into the breakaway, didn't they, this morning? And the breakaway ended when they both took a comfort break.
Yeah, exactly, Carlton. And I think, you know, it's because of that last opportunity for the sprinters that other teams are just saying, well, we're not going to waste our energy, especially before a day like tomorrow where on paper, and I know we keep saying this, and we've only had, what, 2 stages where it's ended up being advantageous and a rider winning from the break, but tomorrow does look perfect for a breakaway. So I think we will see a huge fight tomorrow, and then again on stage 18 for the break. But yeah, like you say, today just down to those nature breaks and building up for what I'd put my money on as being a big sprint final.
Vauquelin was that one from a break into Bologna, and Anthony Turgis into Troyes on the gravel stage. That was a brave move as well. I don't know whether it be bravery or madness today, Robbie, to go into a breakaway, but poor old Thomas Gachinard has decided it's worth the candle. Off he goes.
Well, he's a man that, even if he won't stay away, and I don't believe he will, he's a man who's renowned as finishing what he starts. He's ridden 19 stage races so far in his young career, and he's finished every single one of them. Just gone through the last couple of seasons. Over the last, just over a year and a half of racing, he's only had 3 DNFs of all the races he's ridden. This year, just 1, and that was in the Grand Prix Quillion, where the weather was absolutely filthy, and there were a number of crashes. 1 DNF all season.
That's really impressive. And we were talking, myself and Robbie, before the breakaway this morning, and I asked the question, you know, will any of the sprinters climb off after today's stage? Why would you put yourself in a hole when there aren't any more opportunities on the road? And of course not finishing Paris on the Champs-Élysées this year, but with that time trial in Nice. And I think the overrising kind of consensus was that there is so much respect in finishing a Tour de France that they will absolutely carry on.
Yeah, it's a kind of a peer pressure and a badge of honour that you can finish the Tour, even if there isn't that final carrot dangling in Paris. For the
See y'all tomorrow.
We'll try and push on and just
I got a fun ride tomorrow. Try to get it done early. I might have to go see Frankie Boy, so we'll see. Frankie.
We were talking earlier, Danny, about
thanks for watching. Like, subscribe.
The end of the race, or
Peace.
the end within sight, and whether that helps you over those last couple of mountains.